At the staff party, my team toasted to finally being free of dead weight after my surgery leave. I was still in recovery, watching it on live stream. They'd already cleared out my desk. I came back early with my lawyer and the email where they falsified my medical records. The lawsuit drops tomorrow. But first, I'll be posting this video titled, I worked at that company for almost 8 years. I started as a junior, moved my way up, trained most of the people who ended up on my team. I never took more than 2 sick days a year, worked through weekends, and covered when people bailed. I wasn't loud or flashy, I just showed up and got things done. 3 months ago, I had to get surgery. It wasn't optional. It was something I'd put off for a while because of work, but it got to the point where I couldn't function. I had told my manager about it 6 months ahead, gave notice, handed over documents, trained to back up, everything. HR signed off on the medical leave, and my surgeon gave a detailed note with my recovery timeline. 6 to 8 weeks minimum. I was in the hospital for 5 days, then bedbound at home. The meds made me foggy. I wasn't even really checking emails. I figured it was under control. Then, about 3 weeks into recovery, a coworker I used to be close to who had gone cold lately texted me, "Hope you're doing okay. Just don't watch the party stream." That's all she said. I didn't know what she meant. I opened up our internal events page and saw that our quarterly team party was happening that night. They usually live stream it so remote folks can join in. Out of habit, I clicked on the link. I wasn't ready for what I saw. They were in the main lounge, laughing, drinks in hand. Someone had printed out my old headshot from the company page and taped it to a dartboard. My desk nameplate was on the snack table like it was a prop. At first I thought maybe it was a dumb joke. Then I heard it. One of the senior analysts, someone I trained from scratch, stood up during a toast and said, loud and clear, to finally being free of dead weight. And they all raised their glasses. Everyone laughed. Not awkward laughs. Real, happy, relieved laughs. Like a burden had been lifted. Another manager joked about how things are so much smoother now. A new hire added, I thought she was a myth, the way no one ever mentioned her. More laughs. That hurt in a way I didn't expect. It wasn't just the betrayal. It was the way no one pushed back. Not even the people I helped get promoted. Not even the manager, who told me to take care of myself. They were happy I was gone. Genuinely happy. Then I saw something that made everything snap into focus. A shot of the office panned over my old cubicle. Empty. Cleared out. The chair was gone. My stuff, my monitor stand, even a calendar I left pinned to the wall, it was all gone. I hadn't been fired. No one had told me anything. But clearly, they had made up their minds. That night, I didn't sleep. I was in pain, physical and emotional. The next morning I opened up my work email for the first time in weeks. My account had been deactivated. I emailed HR from my personal account. No reply. I called the main office line. Got put on hold, then sent to voicemail. I tried to contact my manager, no response. I was still technically on leave, but they had erased me. Something in me shifted. I pulled out a notebook I had kept. I used to jot things down, just small things. Who said what, meeting notes, even stuff that fell off. I had notes from the week before I went on leave, where someone from HR asked to update my medical letter just for file formatting. I also had the original PDF from my doctor. When I compared it to what HR uploaded to the shared system, I saw that my timeline had been changed. They altered it to say I'd return after 2 weeks. That was when the pieces fell into place. They had set me up, made it look like I abandoned my post, cleared my desk, let the team think I was never coming back. I wasn't just being erased, I was being framed as unreliable. I called my cousin, who's a labor attorney. I sent him everything. He didn't even wait a day. We started drafting a legal response that week. But I wasn't done. I told my doctor what happened. She was furious. She gave me a signed statement showing what she actually submitted. Then we pulled the metadata from the altered file, showing the exact timestamp when HR uploaded it to the server and who did it. I also had screenshots, Slack threads, archived calendars, a private Teams chat where one of the senior managers joked about cleaning house while I was taking my sweet time healing. I came back to the office quietly, 2 weeks before my original return date. I was limping, sore, still not fully healed. But I dressed professionally and walked in with my lawyer beside me. The front desk froze. Someone stammered that I wasn't on the access list anymore. My lawyer handed them the pre-filed litigation notice and told them to get HR. I didn't go in to make a scene. I just wanted them to know I saw everything and I wasn't gone. The lawsuit is being filed tomorrow. But tonight, I'm sharing the full story. The stream. The toast. The emails. I want people to see what it looks like when loyalty means nothing and sickness is seen as weakness. They broke something in me that day. But I rebuilt it. Piece by piece. Tomorrow they'll feel what it's like to be erased, too. After the lawsuit notice was delivered, the office went silent. For a day or two, it felt like they didn't know how to react. No one from HR reached out. No apology. No statement. Nothing. But then the retaliation started. Someone leaked that I was suing the company to a few staffers, and suddenly I was getting nasty anonymous emails. I knew they were from coworkers. The language, the tone, it was too specific. Stuff like, "No one misses you," or "You were never part of the team." One even said, "Don't expect a dime. We know you were faking it." They used a burner account, but they mentioned things that were only said in private chats. I forwarded every message to my lawyer. Then my cousin found out something worse. They hadn't just altered the timeline of my return. HR had quietly backdated a voluntary resignation form and submitted it to internal systems. They made it look like I had quit. Except I hadn't signed anything, not even electronically. But in their system, there was a form with a scrawled signature and a timestamp from 2 weeks into my leave. That's when we realized this wasn't just cruel. It was illegal. My lawyer added forgery to the list of claims. Meanwhile, someone I trusted, Melissa, the co-worker who first warned me, got called into a check-in with her manager. She texted me after, saying they asked if she had been speaking with external parties and warned her about violating loyalty policies. She was shaking, scared she'd lose her job. I told her to be careful. I didn't want anyone else to get hurt. But they kept tightening the pressure. Melissa's project started getting reassigned. Her manager removed her from client meetings. Then she got a performance warning for being distracted. She broke down and forwarded me a thread where the managers were openly discussing isolating her until she either resigns or becomes loyal again. We added retaliation and witness intimidation to the lawsuit. Then someone called my home. A private number. I picked up. The voice was muffled, distorted, like it was run through a filter. They said, "Drop the case. You'll regret dragging everyone down with you." I froze. Not because I was scared, but because I recognized the way they phrased it. It was something I'd heard before in a meeting. A regional manager used that exact line when threatening to fire someone a year ago. I had the transcript in my notes. We traced the call back to a VoIP service used by corporate. I handed everything over to my lawyer. He stopped being calm after that. We filed for additional protections and began preparing for a media release. Not just legal. Public. But even then, they kept pushing. The company posted a vague press statement on LinkedIn the following week. It said something about false accusations from a former employee who chose to part ways during leave. The wording was careful. Slick. But I knew it was about me. They still thought they could bury me. They didn't know I had the files. The audio. The medical documents. The chat logs. They didn't know I had been backing up everything for years, even before the surgery. And they didn't know I'd already sent it to 3 major journalists. I wasn't the only one they'd done this to. A few names had started to pop up, quiet whispers from people who had gone on stress leave or family leave and just never came back. People said they quit. But now I wasn't so sure. My lawyer told me to wait. Let them make their next move. They did. They tried to settle behind closed doors. Offered a number. It was decent. But it came with a long NDA and a statement I'd have to sign saying I misunderstood the situation. That I'd misinterpreted jokes. That my exit process had been clearly communicated. That HR had followed standard procedure. I declined. I wasn't just after money anymore. I wanted names. I wanted responsibility. I wanted faces attached to decisions. I wanted to look every single person in the eye who toasted to my disappearance and show them I didn't disappear. Not even close. About a week after I turned down the settlement, I got an email from a private address. No name, just the subject line. You don't know the half of it. The body of the message was short. It said, "Check the retention logs. They've been deleting exit files. You're not the first." I saved mine. Attached was a PDF, an HR termination form for someone named Alina K. She'd been in data analytics. I barely knew her. The form showed she was marked, resigned voluntarily, while on maternity leave. The signature box? Blank. Just like mine. I started digging. Quietly. My lawyer reached out to a contact in corporate compliance. We wanted to see if we could get system logs from the internal document server. Meanwhile, I checked LinkedIn. Alina K hadn't updated her job title. Still listed as an employee. But I remembered her disappearing after she had a baby, maybe a year ago. I found her email. She responded right away. She had no idea HR had filed her as resigned. She told me she was still technically waiting for her approved return date, kept getting excuses, then radio silence. They'd ghosted her. She just assumed they didn't want her back. She blamed herself for being gone too long. Thought maybe she just wasn't needed anymore. I told her about my case. She cried on the phone. Turns out, she wasn't the only one. Within 3 days, we found 5 more, people who took medical leave, family leave, or just had extended absences. All of them had been resigned while gone. All denied ever signing a thing. 2 of them had their accounts deactivated without notice. One found out only when her health insurance got canceled mid-recovery. The company had a pattern. That's when my lawyer made a decision. We filed to convert the case into a class action. That escalated things fast. Suddenly, their tone changed. Emails from their legal team went from aggressive to cautious. They stopped the press statements, deleted the vague post on LinkedIn, tried to reach out again through independent mediators. They offered a larger settlement, but still tied to an NDA. I didn't respond. Then Melissa called me in tears. She'd been called into HR and presented with a printed copy of one of our text messages. The one where she warned me not to watch the party stream. They told her it showed disloyalty, and she was being placed on unpaid leave pending an internal review. She asked if I leaked the messages. I hadn't. They must have accessed her company phone. We knew what that meant. They were still watching, still digging, still punishing anyone who didn't fall in line. I told Melissa to come to my lawyer's office the next day.
She did.
She brought her personal laptop, where she'd saved some old chat logs and team meeting notes. She had a folder named Just in Case. She'd been documenting everything too. Inside were transcripts from a manager group chat, screenshots showing them making lists of potential flight risks, people who were seen as not committed enough. I was on that list. So was Alina. So were others. The phrase that kept coming up, clean cuts. We started calling it the clean cut list. These were employees who were seen as disposable. Mostly women. Mostly people who'd taken leave. A few had disabilities or chronic conditions. Some had spoken up about being overworked. HR had quietly flagged them, then removed them. We now had enough to not just prove retaliation but to show systemic discrimination. The media got wind of it. The journalist I'd sent everything to months ago finally published a deep dive story. Headline: They vanished during leave, inside a company's hidden termination machine. My name was in the article. So was Melissa's. So was Alina's. So were screenshots from the stream. They tried to do damage control. Issued a thorough internal investigation statement. Placed a few people on administrative leave. But we already knew what that meant. Temporary scapegoats to calm the noise. But now the board was involved. Their investors started asking questions. And I got a call. From someone I never expected. The CEO. He left a voicemail. Said he was deeply sorry and committed to rebuilding trust. Asked if I'd consider a private meeting to discuss a resolution that works for everyone. I didn't call back. Because I wasn't interested in a resolution. I wanted everyone who toasted to my absence, everyone who watched me get erased, to face what they thought they'd never have to: the consequences. After the article dropped, everything changed. Not just for me, but for everyone they'd tried to silence. The story hit harder than I expected. It got picked up by bigger outlets. Comment sections flooded with people saying the same thing had happened to them. Hundreds of messages poured into my inbox. Some just said thank you. Some were from total strangers who used to work at the company, saying they finally understood what had happened to them. That it wasn't just burnout. It wasn't their fault. It was never about just me. Melissa's leave became permanent. They didn't even try to fire her officially, just removed her access to everything. No explanation. She sent in a resignation letter before they could stage another voluntary exit. She wrote one line: "This is not consent. This is survival." Alina filed her own claim. So did 3 others. And then something unexpected happened. A junior HR rep, someone I barely knew, reached out anonymously. She said she couldn't live with it anymore. Said she had kept copies of documents they were told to destroy. She used a burner email. Said she was scared. She said, "They know what they're doing." The clean-cut list wasn't just internal, it was approved from the top. She attached 4 files. They were internal strategy documents, real ones. Timestamps, headers, metadata, clean and clear. One file was titled Q1 Workforce Optimization, High-Risk Employee Audit. Under high risk, they listed employees on leave, over age 40, flagged for team cohesion challenges, or with medical accommodations on file. Next to each name was a termination pathway. Some said performance improvement plan. Some said voluntary resignation strategy. Others just said access disablement. This was their system. Quiet, cold, designed to cut people out without creating headlines. Until now. The class action doubled in size. Then tripled. My lawyer said he'd never seen a case this clean and this cruel at the same time. But while the public was finally waking up, the people inside the company, they were panicking. People started reaching out not just to help, but to save themselves. One senior manager emailed my lawyer directly. No formal introduction. Just said, "I have records. I was asked to delete them. I didn't. I want protection." We called him Jared for now. He was the one who had given the clean cuts speech in a private leadership meeting. He said he hadn't realized they were actually acting on it. Claimed it started as a cost savings idea during the downturn. Said it got out of hand. I didn't believe that part. But he brought proof. Jared had full recordings from 4 internal planning meetings. Audio files where top executives laughed about how people on medical leave never fight back, and cutting them saves severance. One voice, clear, calm, said, "If they're too sick to work, they're too sick to sue." That one sentence made my lawyer sit in silence for a long time. We shared it with the media. Quietly, at first. Just a few outlets. But someone else leaked it wider. Maybe Jared. Maybe someone else. Soon, that clip was everywhere. TikTok, Twitter, Instagram. A 5-second soundbite attached to a headline: "If they're too sick to work, they're too sick to sue." It became a rally cry. The company tried to spin it. Said it was taken out of context. Claimed the recording was edited. But more clips came out. More employees came forward. More files surfaced. The board launched a formal investigation. The CEO disappeared from social media. Their LinkedIn turned off comments. They shut down their live events page. And then the layoffs started. Quiet, backroom exits of senior leadership. But I didn't feel victorious. Not yet. Because while the world was finally seeing what they did, no one had said my name. Not in a statement. Not in a meeting. Not in any apology. They still thought I'd take the settlement. They still thought I'd just fade out. They still didn't understand. I didn't want silence. I wanted names. The morning of the hearing, I stood outside the courthouse in the same suit I wore the day I came back to the office with my lawyer. I wasn't healed, not physically, not emotionally, but I was strong in a way I hadn't been before. Melissa was next to me. So was Alina. And 3 others. All of us had been marked clean cuts. All of us had been erased. Now we were standing in the open. Inside, their legal team sat in silence. They didn't look at us. The ones who had laughed during the stream, who cleared out my desk, who toasted to being free of dead weight, they weren't there. They had resigned over the past few weeks. Some with quiet severance. Some just gone. Their names were removed from the staff page. But that didn't matter anymore. Because the CEO showed up. He had no choice. The court had ruled the recordings admissible. The internal documents, too. The fake resignation forms. The altered medical records. All of it. When he took the stand, he spoke slowly, like he was reading from a script. Said he regretted how things were handled. Said he respected all employees. Said he wasn't aware of every detail. Then my lawyer played the clip again. If they're too sick to work, they're too sick to sue. The room went silent. The judge looked directly at him. The CEO didn't say another word. We won. Not just the case, everything. The company was ordered to pay damages to every single person who had been wrongfully terminated. Not just us, all of them. Back pay, emotional distress, legal fees, and a public apology. They had to publish it on their website, their LinkedIn, their internal portal, and email it to every current employee. In it, they had to list the names of the employees they erased. Mine was first. We apologized to my name for our failure to protect her rights during medical leave. She did not resign. She was terminated under false and altered records. We take full responsibility. They also had to list the names of the people involved in the decisions. Some were already gone. Some were still there. Not anymore. The board forced out the CEO. Quietly, but without a golden parachute. No farewell statement. No thanks for his service. Just gone. HR got gutted. Entire departments were dissolved. A third-party compliance firm took over. And every remaining employee had to go through ethics training with real legal oversight. They couldn't hide anymore. And as for me, yes, I got money. Enough to walk away. Enough to cover every hour of pain, every lawyer's hour, every night I spent wondering if I was crazy. But that wasn't what I cared about. I posted the final video the night the ruling went public. I showed clips of the stream, screenshots of the documents, the clean-cut list, the forged signatures, the toast. I ended it with a photo of my hospital wristband next to the dartboard printout of my face they used at the party. Caption: I was healing. They were celebrating. Now I'm back. And I have names. It went viral. But I didn't read the comments. I didn't need the internet to tell me I was right. For years, I blamed myself for being too quiet, too trusting, too slow to stand up. I thought if I worked hard enough, they'd see my worth. That's what they teach you. Stay loyal, stay useful, and you'll be safe. But I learned something else. Sometimes silence is what they count on. And sometimes revenge doesn't come loud. It comes carefully, quietly, in courtrooms and folders and quiet proof. It comes when the people who called you weak realize you were just waiting for your moment. My desk may be gone, but they can't erase me. Not anymore.